Well, if you were to ask me that question probably 5 years ago, I would say our schools are as safe as any in the nation, or safer. And you ask me that question today, and I realize that our kids are vulnerable. There's been active shooting after active shooting in various locations, in schools, in colleges. This last year, we built a new elementary school. We were in the middle of building the school when the incident occurred a year ago, December, in Sandy Hook. At that point, we decided we needed to retool our office and entrance. We're able to lock all of the doors around the school with the push of a button. We're able to control entrance into the main office. We're able to work with the fire department and also the sheriff's department, where we can provide them cards to where they would have access to certain numbers of doors within our school system. We'd like to replicate that in all 5 of our schools. However, that's a pretty spendy process to be able to do. Where we'd like to go is a software package that's called 4 Quarters that a local company is working on and has worked with Seattle Police Department to provide emergency responders access to actually our cameras in buildings. So as they're traveling to the scene, they can pull up any camera and get a bird's eye view of what's occurring in the building. Right after Sandy Hook, a group of 3 superintendents and sheriff department, Randy Town, and a variety of people came together to start talking about what do we need to do to better prepare our schools. And then that group has grown significantly over the last year and a half to include universities, the community college, all people working with a common focus of protecting both youth and adults within educational systems. We have one location that we can go to talk about training that's necessary for our staff, commonalities in emergency preparedness as it relates to how do you respond to an active shooter, the run, hide, fight technique, all those things that we need to consider, from communications to contacts with emergency responders to training for staff, devices for door locking equipment. I'm rubbing shoulders with emergency response experts twice a month, talking about a common interest of protecting our kids.
Well, humor. I like that. That's good. Yeah. Did you come over last night? It's coming
I'm very impressed with the turnout. If we keep getting this, we'll have to rent the convention center. I forgot to include on the agenda SELA exercise, so I'm going to put that on there so Jim can kind of give us an update and a little discussion around that.
The things that happens in schools don't happen very often, but when they do, they're horrendous, and they're long-lasting. And they affect entire communities, not just the school or the kids that were involved. Primarily what we do is the exercise piece, which means we test the systems. We throw a problem at the school and the responders, and they react to it. The things that we're doing with schools now is so much different than what we did even a couple of years ago, in that when we have a training exercise with them and we help them facilitate those, is that we try to bring everybody that would be there in a real event. And sometimes that's 20, 30, 40 agencies or the federal alphabet. We did an active shooter exercise down in Zilla. I think we had more observers from other school districts than we had actual responders looking at it. So it really was a good thing. They learned a lot. Training of people, having equipment and material available for instructors and administrators that if something happens, they can do something. That just wasn't happening before. I think the weak link right now is having the resources to provide the training and knowledge for the instructors in the classroom. These things happen so fast, so quickly. Law enforcement can react and come, but it's that 10 or 15 minutes before law enforcement gets there that is so critical to how many people survive. And just about every one of the shootings that I've heard about on the news, there's always one or two teachers that step up and really take care of the problem before law enforcement get there. In a lot of ways, the problem is solved in the school. Every law enforcement agency, every fire department, every public works department, every emergency management offices believes that they have a role in events. School districts, and in many cases, feel like they're in charge of everything that happens at the school. But when something really bad happens like this, they really need to take a look at, hey, I need to share my authority and responsibility and put heads together with those other entities, fire, law, public works, and come up with a solution that works for the kids.
So for those groups like SafePoint, Fort Weathers that are installing systems, you do have some flexibility around the time that will be installed. You had some other information too.
The one that we found out about was an SGS. Familiar with Jay Garthwaite, who's in the construction side of ESD, building facilities and that kind of stuff. And that was, I believe that is a basic panic alarm button.
We're now at a place where we want schools to have a plan for 15 minutes. Lockdown is the start, not the end.
Sandy Hook really taught us a lesson, and the coordination and the cooperation between the various school districts, the local ESD and police departments have been remarkable since Sandy Hook. We know that for the first 5 minutes, we can't influence what is occurring if one of these tragedies occur. And unfortunately, the schools in the outlying districts, it could be 15 minutes. In an active shooter scenario, we know that there's a casualty every 12 to 17 seconds. So 5 minutes is an eternity unless we work together to change things as they are now. We need to provide additional training to the school districts on how to react in that first 5 minutes, and then integrate what is going to be expected of them by law enforcement after we have arrived. We have a local company that's working with the Union Gap School District. They're beta testing their program right now. My clerical staff will be able to see everything that, all the cameras, everything that is going on in the school. If we want to eliminate the ability of the suspect to move around freely, having that technology come all the way down to the smartphones that supervisors carry out in the field to be able to open and lock doors is crucial. I think it would be incredibly helpful if there were monies allocated specifically for training on this issue so that officers can have the opportunity to coordinate with school staff, the ability to go in and do a full 8-hour training with school staff so that we can learn from each other and coordinate each other's response would be immeasurable. More minds are better than one, and it's been very rewarding to see this collaboration and the ideas that are coming forth. There's no reason why every ESD shouldn't immediately implement these groups statewide.
Basically, we're talking about the responses like prevention, response, and then recovery, and then the activities that would go inside there.
We do have a lot of things coming down in prevention in terms of crisis management plans that also include youth suicide prevention and mental health first aid. And so those kinds of things of talking with people about those predictors with kids.
And so what we're running into is conflicts between what we're trying to do here versus what we're running into with the fire service. And when we're talking about funding, we're having to tie a lot of the stuff into the fire panels, and that was expense nobody expected.
I like to say I hope it will never happen in my career, but the odds are ever increasing. I mean, we're not going a week without hearing about it somewhere. Locally, I can only speak to the fire departments are putting more casualty bags together for acts of violence. I carry lots of things for broken legs, cut arms, and things like that. But for gunshots, it's a whole different wound. It's a whole different wound treatment. And bags are expensive. Our protective gear is expensive. So getting us better prepared to get it and then to get in there faster and do better once we get in there, that would be the key. That's one thing I've been learning as I go along, going to the cooperation meetings, is seeing what's out there on the school level. Because outside of what we hear at our trainings, we've never worried about that. We've never, it's like when we get there, we expect to be let in. But with this whole new wave of acts of violence, we may not be able to get in. And so that's another learning curve that we have to sharpen. We have a golden hour to get them to the surgery table. What I learned at the drill we had in Zilla was our golden hour started and stopped before any definitive care got started. It was such a delay in getting EMS to there, so before the first Band-Aid was applied, was right about the 50-minute mark without looking at my records. But we lost that hour just in that first disorganization. Outside of school shootings, it's been really good. Somebody's hurt, we're right there. But whenever you have acts of violence, that's where the disconnect happens, because our training protocols forbid us from going in there until we are safe. We are working with this cooperation to try to get everybody on the same page, so the fire knows what PD knows and PD knows what the school, and we have the same expectations. And it's just getting that out there, communicating it to all the other fire districts and cities is the big hurdle, the next step.
I'm a major stakeholder in our school district to make sure that we're doing things right. And you guys are, honestly, you're way out in front of us. The many stakeholders you have in here is just phenomenal. So one of the things too that we focus on K through 12 is the training that we do for substitute teachers and para-aides.
There have been 31 school shootings since Columbine.
College institutions were invited to be part of this consortium, and to have all the players at the table has meant a lot to us. Basically, all higher education needs are the same as K-12 needs. It's amazing what access control has brought to what we're working on now. And school safety and the ways things are laid out is amazing what we can do from our desktops. What they have is a way for the responding crews to know exactly what they're walking into on campus. They know on their map where the library is, where the exits are, where they're going in, and where they can set up incident command control. So they understand what they're getting into as they go in. On my desktop, I can look with the new access controls. I can pinpoint certain cameras on campus that are already set up. I can lock certain doors that are already set up. So I can tell them when the responder, when he gets there, exactly what I've done and what they've done. For all higher education programs, very few of them have that kind of access. That is happening in Central Washington as we speak. This group is working together to make sure that we are all set up that way. You know, if you look for access controls on the internet, there's a huge amount, but you have to weed out what works from what doesn't. If you sit down at the table with us on a Friday morning at 8 o'clock, we know exactly what works. We know what programs work with other programs. We know who's a good guy to work with. We know how we can get some money to buy that piece of software. And we know what people will work with us on the price. But without sitting at that table on Friday morning with a consortium, I would have never known that. It's exciting for us. It's going places. But we have anywhere from 10 to 30 people sit down at that table every other Friday morning that can give us information. that's helping us. The staff that's here at the university is also going to the table and working with us at the consortium and learning what other people are doing, and the officers, the responders are all willing to help and train those people. I think that every ESD should have this group.
All right, I want to thank all of you for being here, and I appreciate your participation. I thought this was rather good. Tim, thanks for coming over.
Thank you.
Some districts are still trying to harden the entrances. Other districts don't have camera systems. It hasn't been a high priority until the last few years. The state doesn't necessarily have anything in place to cover the cost of that, so school districts either need to figure out a way to pay for it, or figure out how they're going to explain themselves if something happens and we haven't protected our kids.